Boulder, Boulder, Boulder. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jay here once again, and we're going to dive into the defensive side of the ball. We got another expert that pulled up, national recruiting insider, Philip Dukes from On3. He's going to talk a little bit about the defensive side of the ball, give y'all some insight on what he's seen and what he thinks about some of the prospects out there. And if you stick around for a bit, he's got some good insight, especially when we dive into the secondary. He's got some feelings or whatnot. So make sure y'all sit back, relax, join us here on the Prime Time for College Football. Let's dive into it with Philip Dukes. Let's talk defense real quick. We're talking Philip Dukes from On3 here on the channel. Let's talk the defensive side of the ball. We know the linebacker room is very veteran. So they've got a lot of dudes that, especially with Bentley trying to hold on to that middle, that Mike linebacker position. But they've got veteran presence there. The secondary looks like it's probably going to be one of the best in the Big 12, possibly, with a whole revamped defensive line. Do you see Colorado being able to get to the quarterback this season compared to what they did last year?
Easy, man. When you think about bringing in the guys from Pittsburgh that they got, I think it all starts up front. What's my man? Is it B.J. Green from Arizona State?
Yeah, B.J. Green from Arizona State. Yeah, he played for Coach Prime in high school, right?
Yeah, like a ball player, man. So when you talk about a guy like B.J. Green, how do I pronounce my man name from Pittsburgh?
You got Okalola?
Oklahoma, yeah. We talk about you got guys who really can play ball and play it on a large level. This is the best defensive line these guys have had. It's the best defensive line Colorado has had in years. I think not only just Colorado, but I mean they're experienced, man, and not to take anything away from them. And I think the line's where it starts. So I definitely think they'll be able to get to the quarterback, and more so than anything, we're not just going to be able to line it up and run it down their throats, which I think is more important than anything. Is the fact that you can stand up at the point of attack in the trenches. That's something that they didn't really have last year. So I think the defensive line is going to be really successful this year.
Secondary, you've got two-side player, Travis Hunter. We know how elite he is. We watched that interception he got against TCU where we're like, wait, where the hell did he come from? That was not what we expected. But then they added DJ McKinley on there, as well as, what's the young man's name over at the other corner spot? It just slipped my brain. But they've added some components to the secondary to try to build up and possibly give Hunter an opportunity to sit. You mentioned this before that you got to have at least 3 corners, and then you got to have 7 to play. You think Colorado's hit that point?
They got 3 corners for sure, and the third guy, in my opinion, is Colton Hood, who came transferred from Auburn. I've been following, the brother of Brandon Hood and Trent Hood as well. The brother of Brandon Hood and cousin of Trent Hood. Their uncle was Roger Hood, played in the NFL for 8 years. Really good friend of mine. I was put on the Colts years ago, and I talked to him at length, and he always felt like he was an SEC guy. And he was really hell bent on going to Michigan State, but to prove everybody wrong, it was basically like a revenge tour. He was like, I know I can go to Auburn, so he goes to Auburn. He sits, and in the Music City Bowl, he's a revelation. Probably has the best spring of anybody in Auburn in Auburn secondary. Moves up to the number 3 corner and challenged for the second spot. But really, a lot of people felt like he should have been one of the top 2 corners at Auburn. I think that his ball skills are really elite. And I think a lot of that comes from when he was playing baseball, man. The angles that he took to the ball. And he's a guy who could play college baseball, like without a doubt. If Colorado had a baseball team, he'd probably be your number 2 or your number 3 hitter. But he's a guy that learned from baseball, and what baseball took away from him on the ranking side was he never got to do spring football. So he never did the camps. He never did the 7-on-7. He didn't do any of that because he was playing elite level baseball. So what baseball did give back to him was the elite angles that he takes to the ball when the ball is in the air. And he's one of those guys that you don't have to tell they got this old saying, and when you talk to DBs, when you catch the ball in the secondary, you want to catch the ball with your elbows by your ears, meaning high pointed. He's not the type of guy that you got to tell that to. He does it naturally. It's innate for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's somebody that I think he's really going to turn a lot of heads because he wants to smoke. If you saw in the spring game, Cam Coleman from Auburn, who a lot of people are thinking is going to be a freshman All-American and a potential first-round pick in a couple of years, Colton gave him everything he wanted, everything. When you saw those bombs, they were not on Colton Hood, and I'm not sure. I think he may have had one catch for like 6 yards on Hood, if he had anything. So he's somebody I'm really looking forward to that kind of solidifies the depth in that room. And like you said, to give Travis Hunter a breather at times where you don't have to worry about, Travis Hunter out the game, go up top. Because you know it's going to be the third corner is probably not on the same level as everybody else. So there's a lot to be excited about. And then not to forget Nakai Hill Green Green Hill.
Yeah.
Hill Green.
Yeah. Hill Green. You're right.
Nakai came from Charlotte, man. Big time linebacker. He chose Colorado over Arkansas and Texas A&M. Both programs wanted him badly. They both said he's a grown man, is about handling his business. There's a saying when it comes to recruiting, and coaches will say this: "Look, I want a guy with a mustache on him," which means that the guy's he's already mature. He understands how to play, and he ain't gonna play no games. That's him. He's all business, and I think he's gonna be a really good value add to that second level. So when you talk about adding elite talent at the defense at all three levels, the line, the linebackers, and the secondary, and adding it to what you had, it goes back to what we're saying, adding pieces to make the sum of the whole more formidable.
No, that makes sense, man. You want a guy that looks like he's been working in the coal mines for like 20 years, walking around with his hard hat, his lunch pail. So I get the mustache. That's a pretty good one. I'm going to have to leverage that one of these days. That's funny. Yeah, so last piece, we'll talk safety room, right? You got Preston Hodge as well as Shiloh Sanders probably looking like they're going to lead that. Also, even at corner, you're going to see him with DBs. R.J. Johnson, the transfer from Arkansas, man, he's a big dude at 6'2", right? Having 6'2" corners is huge, especially because nowadays most of your tall guys typically goes over to the skill side of wide receiver, right? So to match up a big corner with that, that's a big piece to help as long as you can get him to the skills you need. But as you mentioned, Colton Hood is the one he was the one I was thinking about. He was at Auburn. I thought he was going to be one of the starters, and then now he's with Colorado, so he should be out there playing a lot now. But Shiloh and Preston, man, how you feel about him and Hodge really running things in that safety room? Is the depth there for them to be prepared for not only this season but going into next?
Man, so I'm not as familiar with the safeties as I am with the other positions as far as the depth goes. But to talk about the top end talent between Preston and Shiloh, I think it doesn't get much better than those two, man. I was really impressed in fall camp with seeing Preston. I think he's number 3, correct?
Yep.
Or is he 20? No, hold up. I think Hodges is 24, maybe.
Yep.
That's him? Yeah.
Let me verify.
Watching his ball skills, like I was like, man, this dude here. I'm like, I was thinking he was a corner at first. Yep. I was. So when I watched him initially, I thought he was a corner. The way he travels and goes to get the ball. So I think that's really important to be able to match him up with the hard hitting traditional box safety like Shiloh, who is going to basically bring a linebacker mentality to the back end of the secondary, who does have some mobility, who does have fluid hips, and will come up and lay the wood and basically, make you think twice about catching that dig over the middle or catching that post or, hey, man, am I going to tiptoe when it's time for me to go catch that slant? So I think those are components that you want in the safety room, especially when you have coverage corners who can come up and run support. But if you know that they're going to turn their back to the quarterback, you want safeties that are able to move to watch their backs. And I think Colorado has that in spades.
I agree with you there. Hodge number 24 at 6 foot, 195, nice size. Definitely good for a safety and, corner safety, whichever one he ends up playing at. I've seen him at corner in some spots. I read somewhere about him potentially playing corner also. But that's the good thing, as you mentioned, that gets you depth that you need to have because you got to have multiple guys to be able to go out there. And you don't want it to drop off whenever you have to do a sub because then that's when teams decide that they want to go over the top. All right, give us your final prediction. Where do you think Colorado lands in the Big 12 this season?
I think they got to be a top 3 team. I just think when you got a quarterback like that, a wide receiver, when you got 2 top 5 picks, throwing and pitching and catching, like, I mean, come on, bro. Like, I think it's gonna be hard. I think they got enough on the offensive line. I think they got enough on the defensive line. When I look at their roster this year versus the year before, you see guys who play big time football. I think they'd be a lot closer to what UCF was last year, where they got a lot of transfers in and they raised the talent of defense. I think UCF and Colorado will probably be 2 of the better teams in the Big 12. So yeah, those are my 2 teams out of the Big 12. I think those 2 teams will be the best 2. Oklahoma State in that mix, but yeah, top 3 teams. I got UCF, Colorado, and Oklahoma State.
Wow, that's huge. That's a different one. Did not expect that one there. Okay, and so we appreciate you coming to join us. This is Philip Dukes over there at On 3. He's got the 5-star flex. Had the first official show this week, and you're gonna be doing. Is that gonna be a weekly show? How is that gonna be ran?
I'm just doing them, man. Like, I did one, I got another one dropping today. Like, so when they gave me the green, like, it was like, Dukes, we want 30 minutes from here on out. Like, well, don't scare me with a good time. I'm ready. Been ready. Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go. Welcome to the game. Welcome over there On 3. I know you started at the beginning of the year, man, but we appreciate you pulling up here on Primetime College Football.
No, for sure, man. Thank you, man. Appreciate it so much, big dog.